Everyone, it's Dora from flippinghousesanpancakes.com, and I thought today I would talk with you a little bit about how our business has changed over the last 3 years. Now, I did write a blog post about this subject last week. I titled it The Last 3 Flipping Years, and if you want, you can find that on my website, flippinghousesanpancakes.com, and that talks a little bit about the subject that I'm going to be talking about today. I thought I'd expand a little bit on what actually happened over the last 3 years, and not just with us, but in general in the real estate market. So I'll go all the way back 3 years ago. Lots of people were flipping. We were flipping houses. We'd do one house at a time, make a decent profit, move on to the next house. Now, sometimes we would buy houses regularly, just on the regular market, and sometimes we would buy REOs, which are bank-owned properties that were foreclosed on. In the state of Maryland, when you buy a bank-owned property that was foreclosed on, you have to wait until it gets ratified by the judge. Sometimes it takes a really long time. So we had been, as we approached March of 2020, we were still waiting on this one house that we had been waiting on for almost a year for the judge to sign off on it. And then we'd have to pay for it and we would own it. So at the beginning of March 2020, the judge finally ratified the foreclosure sale and finally ratified, and we were able to go ahead and purchase the house. We purchased the house, and within, well, let me tell you. So we purchased this house. It was a foreclosure. We had not been able to go inside the house before we bought it, and nobody had lived in it for over a year. The house was a total nightmare. The roof was damaged. Some of the walls were damaged. So we had leaks and things like that, but I remember walking in with my husband, and we went in and opened the door to the house, and it was just like, oh my gosh, I had never seen a hoarder house that looked like this. I mean, I've been into a lot of houses where maybe hoarders had lived and there was too much stuff piled up everywhere. This was like, we had to climb over things just to get into the rooms. I remember just climbing over all kinds of stuff and going like, oh, that looks nice. Oh, this looks nice. Oh, maybe we'll sift through it and see if there's stuff worth keeping. Because sometimes we'll do that. I have some interesting things that we've found in houses that we've either sold or we've kept and used or things like that. But we were climbing through this house from room to room. It felt really tiny. It was like, oh no, how are we going to sell this little tiny house? But that's okay. It's cheaper to rehab a tiny house than it is to rehab a big one. So we climbed through it. We climbed up the stairs. I can't believe we made it up to the top of the stairs. It was so squishy, and there was stuff piled on the stairwell. Every single stair, there was stuff. And we went upstairs and just saw like more bedrooms, just totally crammed with garbage. And I was like, okay, there's a basement. Let's find the basement. We couldn't get to the basement. It was blocked by so much stuff. We just literally couldn't get there. So we knew we're going to have to clear out this house, and it'll be fine. We'll clear it out. We've done before. We'll get some dumpsters. We'll take out all the pieces a little bit at a time. And that's not what ended up happening at all. So we had 2 crews go. Well, it was 1 crew, but we had them split into 2. One to start taking off the roof because it needed a replacement. So one was taking off the roof so that we could replace the damaged boards and repair the roof. And 1 crew was starting to take stuff out. And so we have the roof being opened and some of the walls where there was damage being opened, and we have stuff coming out of the building. And this all began to happen right as everything shut down. COVID hit, everything shut down. Everybody remembers those first 2 weeks. We did not stay home. We stayed home. It was a few days. And then it was like, we took the roof off of a building and it was going to start raining soon. It's March, you never know, it's going to rain, it's going to snow. So we had to get the roof replaced. Like, we couldn't just leave it open and whatever. So we called the dumpster. It was such a mess. We had to get the dumpster company to come, and they didn't want to bring stuff. And it was like, we have to finish clearing out this house. We have to be able to rebuild the walls and the roof. Like, it has to happen. And construction was still considered an essential industry, an essential business. So we were allowed to stay open. We were allowed to continue working, and they were allowed to bring us dumpsters. But it was a major challenge just trying to orchestrate getting them to bring the dumpster, getting the crew to be there. And the crew, of course, they were working once the roof is off, and they were for the most part working separately from each other. There were only a few guys who came. Some guys stopped coming. Well, we eventually got the house cleared out. We didn't even sift through it because it was that kind of a month. It was total chaos. They dumped it all, everything, cleared the whole place out, and they were able to patch the roof and stuff like that. So we were able to continue to work on the house. The guys were kind of kept separate. Anybody who didn't feel well didn't come in. We would go to home at that point. By the time we got everything cleared out and the roof up, people were allowed to go, essential workers, that's what they were. They would go, we could go to Home Depot. They had started having everybody wear masks. So we were all masked up and doing all the work, masked up and going to Home Depot and all those things. And we continued working on this house. We got it done. But as we were working on the house, pricing started to increase. It started to get harder and harder to find things that we needed. We actually got that house pretty much done before it got really, really challenging. We got that one rehabbed pretty quickly. At that point, nobody else was really working. Or very few people were working. It was like a half an hour drive that only took 15 minutes because there was no traffic. I remember taking my oldest daughter driving. I was like, let's go driving. There's no traffic. But so we could get to and from the work site pretty quickly. Our guys were able to, they were the only ones in Home Depot. Like, there were other people in Home Depot. There were other people. But we got a lot of work done in that house, got that one done pretty quickly, which was great. And we had other ones coming up as well. So we just started to work through them. Our crew worked through that summer on other houses and through the fall. And we started to notice that, I don't know if everybody remembers, but, and we still have some issues now, but the supply chain just got totally smashed. And we started to have trouble getting some of our supplies. Couldn't get wood for a while. It was hard to find wood. It was hard to find electrical wire. It started to get really hard to find stuff, or the prices went really high, and that impacts a business tremendously. So we thought, okay, it's going to cost us this much in wood to rehab a house. So not that house, but the next house that we were doing is when the wood prices really started to go up. And I remember when my husband called me and he was like, I don't understand what's happening. I usually buy this wood for like $7.50 to $8 a piece of plywood, and they charged me $30. $30 per sheet of plywood. That's almost quadruple the price. So when you're pricing out a renovation, that's a big difference. $8 versus $30. That's like quadruple the price for your supplies. Means the difference between making money and losing money, pretty much. The only saving grace was this. Not so many people were moving. Most people were staying home, right? We were all staying home. So not so many people were moving, but the people who were stuck in very small spaces were trying to get to larger houses because everyone was going crazy in their houses. And the people who did need to move, there were very few houses to move to. So that was, and interest rates were still really low at that moment in time. So what that meant was, if you did have a house to sell, your house would sell for a good amount of money. So we were actually able to make up the difference in the price of the materials because we were able to have a higher selling price. So we finished those renovations. We had a few others coming up, and we just kind of kept moving and kept selling, and eventually got easier to find supplies, which was good. One time we were out of town. We actually went out of town, bought some wire, came back because somebody else had it somewhere. We brought the wire back because we couldn't get it here. We were hunting through eBay. Like, does anybody have this circuit breaker that we need? I remember my husband he's like, I bought the last 3 circuit breakers. I can't find them anywhere. Nobody has them. And he bought them. He was very excited. And it was really hard. That part was really challenging in the flipping industry or any renovation, when you think that you should be able to go and find what you need and then it's not there. Or we had issues with our cabinet company. They were struggling because they didn't have enough people working for them because they had employees that were getting sick. So we would have like, it's going to be 3 months to get your cabinets, or it's going to be 2 months to get your countertop. And in flipping, you want to keep moving. You want to get out of the market. You know, you want to get in the house, fix the house, get out of the house. And we would be stuck in some of our renovations for 6 months instead of 3 months, simply because we just couldn't get all of the materials. So we would kind of be almost done with something, and then we couldn't get the material. We had to wait. We'd send our crew to the next property. And then as soon as the other stuff came in, we'd send them back to finish up the house. So we had several houses where we kind of had to have our crews go back and forth because, finally we got this one item in and we could finish up. Sometimes we had to call in, some architects again and say, or an engineer really, call an engineer and say, okay, we can't get these beams. They don't exist at the moment. Tell us how we fix this property, how we fix our design and modify it. So if we can only get these beams, for our ceilings or our floors. So we had to do a lot of kind of manipulating around, okay, we can't get this material, we're going to use that one. We can't get these cabinets, we're going to use those. We did one house, I just said, tell me which siding color you have, and you have it in stock, and you have this much that I need. And so there were houses where, okay, that's the siding color. Yay. Now let's design around it because that's the only siding I can get. So we did a lot of that sort of thing. Very hard when you're trying to design and you want to make it look really nice and you're like, that's the only color. Okay, we'll do something. So we had a lot of houses like that, but we got through it. And like I said, the good news was that even though all material costs had gone up, the housing prices were rising, and the housing prices were rising everywhere, which was really good. It's really great in the real estate business. So we kept flipping houses. We kept renovating them. We kept putting them on the market. They were selling really nicely. It got to the point where we were having like bidding wars. It was like, oh no, I'm going to pay you this much. No, I'm going to pay you this much. I'll pay you even more. This is even better. So it was great. So that was good. Great time for renovating houses and for flipping houses. And interest rates were still pretty low. Now, there still are not so many houses on the market, but in the last year, we've noticed that the interest rates have started to go up. All right, there's inflation a little bit, and the interest rates are rising. So the housing prices went up, but the interest rates also went up, which means that people have to pay more for their mortgages. So the housing prices have started to kind of slow down, and we still sold stuff. We kind of shifted towards smaller houses. First of all, you need less material, and it costs less in material to renovate a smaller house, which is great because if you can only get a certain amount of material, you might be able to finish off your house, as opposed to if you're doing a big house, you might not be able to finish it. The other reason that we shifted towards smaller houses is because as interest rates went up, people were able to afford smaller and smaller houses. So being on the lower size, right, in a smaller house, we could charge less for the house and more people would still be able to afford it. So we kind of shifted to the smaller houses, and rates keep rising and keep rising, and I think we're like double what we were last year, maybe in terms of interest rates, maybe even more than double. It went from like 3 to 7. I don't know the exact interest rate right, today, but that essentially has brought the real estate market kind of to a grinding halt. Now, we do have flips that we're in the middle of. We do have houses that we're finishing. They are all on the smaller side, and hopefully they will all sell. We always give ourselves a little bit of room to make sure that we are going to be able to get out of the house without losing money, going to be able to get out of the house and hopefully still make some profit. But the real estate market's really, really grinding to a halt. So coming up over the next year or so, we're shifting our plan, and we are actually doing more. We still have some houses that we're waiting to be renovated, and some of those are going to become rentals instead of trying to flip them and sell them. And the benefits to that is, first of all, we already own a rental company, so we already manage rental properties. So that's not a big deal for us to have rentals. It gives you consistent income, which is great. And eventually, if the market kind of picks up, you can eventually sell the house if you want to. But in the meantime, the house becomes, something that gives you some sort of income. The other good part about when you're then renovating a house for a rental is that you don't need the same finishings. You don't need to make it you don't have to have all the upgraded finishings. If you want to, you can. But for a rental house, I would okay, that kitchen is in decent condition. I'm not going to take it out. I'm just going to fix it up. Or that bathroom is in decent condition. I'm not going to take it out. I'm just going to make sure it's nice and clean and usable, and it's good. And obviously, if you have to have a bathroom renovated, you do that. You put in a new bathroom if you need it. You put in a new kitchen if you need it. But sometimes you don't need it. Sometimes you just need to fix them or clean them up. So you're going to do that. You're going to just make different design choices where it's like, I'm going to buy the cheaper tile because it's a rental instead of a flip. Things like that. I'm not going to do a waterfall edge on a countertop because it's a rental. I don't need to make it more deluxe. So it costs less to renovate them, and they'll give me regular steady income until the market improves and I can sell them. And it could be that when the market improves and I'm ready to sell them, then I will rehab the kitchen, or I will rehab the one bathroom that I didn't fix. But in the meantime, it will make money. It won't be a loss, and it won't cost me as much to fix up and get it ready. So really, at this point in time, we've definitely slowed down on the flips. We still have a few, like I said, that are needing to be sold, that are almost finished or getting ready to be put on the market. But then we also have some that we're fixing up as rentals, because that's how we're going to be able to stay in good shape during this kind of slow real estate market. So hopefully pretty soon the market will bump up again and we'll be able to do more of our flips. But in the meantime, we'll be doing renovating rental houses, and of course a few flips. So you'll still see me go into houses that are disasters. You will still get to watch as we redesign or renovate and make them livable and make them nice. And which is one of my favorite parts, by the way, of rehabbing a house, is just taking it from a disaster and an eyesore to something that people can use again. And it makes me so happy. So you'll still see us doing that. Definitely going to be doing that. Definitely going to still be dreaming about doing big renovations, because I do love those also. But in the meantime, we're not going to be doing as many flips. You'll see more of the stuff where we're prepping things for rentals. We're renovating rental units and things like that. And the occasional flip. The occasional. You have to keep a few in there every once in a while. A little occasional flip. So that's what's happening in our real estate business. So in our flipping business and our rental business. That's what's going on. And I will give you more updates as things change. And if you have any questions about the flipping business or the rental business and how things are impacting it right now, you can go ahead and leave me a comment in the bottom. If you enjoyed this video, which I really hope you did, if you enjoyed the video, please hit like, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell for notifications so you find out every time I post a new video, and go check out my website, flippinghouseandpancakes.com.